Hello. I am Keturah Kendrick, writer of No Thanks, and I have with me a reader of No Thanks. Introduce yourself, Miss Lady.
I am Lauren Teverbaugh.
Hi, Lauren.
Hello.
I I brought Lauren on because Lauren came to the New Orleans reading at Community Book Center, and she was very adamant, "You're gonna sign my book, girl." And as I was signing her book, we were chit chatting, and Lauren said something about what she took away from the book and what stuck with her as we were chatting that I thought was worth others hearing, because as I do these events and as I meet readers, I'm hearing similar themes. And I just wanted Lauren to share your takeaway, particularly about the word we discussed, based on the essay, the S word, that word being selfish. Just share your thoughts to me on what your connection was to that particular essay and just that conversation around the word selfish.
Right. And you're right. You said you're having conversations with women as you go around the country and do your book tour. I'm having conversations, the same ones with my friends, my peers, my family members we're going through, or my age group, like my cousins, where we are really taking a look at what living as for me and for my family, Black women, what that looks like, and how in some ways things are shifting in terms of what we want for ourselves, what we want for our families, what we want for our communities, and shifting in our relationship to it. And I think your book chapter where you talk about the S word and selfish and what that means, and how that has been framed or defined for us by those who raised us, those community members, our society, our culture, that taking time to fill yourself up, and doing and learning what makes you fulfilled, what makes you happy, what makes you content, what keeps you whole. If it is not the way it is defined for you, if it doesn't fit within a model that was presented for you, you're called selfish, right? I'm called selfish, or it is implied, right? It is implied that, for instance, for myself, I moved away from my family, and I didn't go back. At least I haven't yet.
Originally from Chicago, right?
From right, Detroit area, and all of my family is in Chicago, right? And so it was just my nuclear family that was in the Detroit area, and then home even now, because most everyone has moved back, except for a couple family members are in Chicago, and so home is Chicago. And so most people have stayed there and definitely return if they leave for a little bit of time. And I don't have biological children of my own right now, and I'm not married. I have a partner, but I'm not married. I don't have some of those more traditional roles of what a woman is expected to do, or it just even assumed, just kind of with that next step. I just assume that's the next step for you, or and when I don't have some of those more traditional responsibilities, maybe sometimes that it makes people feel a little bit like I'm othered, or different, or that my experience doesn't necessarily match theirs. And I do know that for some who don't who definitely feel that crunch a little bit more, in terms of feeling that pressure of needing to fulfill all of those roles and be everything for everybody, that if you choose not to do that, or at least just be more informed or intentional about it, and say, no, I actually do need to push back on that a little bit. I do need a little bit more time for myself. I do actually want to do this thing that I love to do and that I find pleasurable. And if that is not something that person either feels like they can do freely, or they feel like, because I don't have this, therefore I can live, quote, a more free life, that it feels like that, especially in some of the situations that I've been, that there is a level of, well, why not, right? And I think you spoke to this in your book, like if I don't have the responsibility of taking my child to X, Y, and Z practice, or have a routine that is circled or centered around children, or even partner or anything like that, that that it's not okay to, sleep in, or or
Yeah, this idea that you have to make up,
right, for that,
for
right,
not having an obligation to a family structure, to a husband, to a child. Like you mentioned, oh, I moved away, and I remember when we were chatting at Community Book Center in New Orleans, you were saying that people just like oh yeah, I moved away, and they're wondering why I haven't come back, because again, you have no husband and no child in all these places where you have lived. So why are you living away from your mama and your auntie and your cousins? You have to make up for that and care for us in the absence
yes,
of
who I
parents.
love dearly, right?
Right.
But they don't live in a geographic region that I love, right? So choosing to move to a different place that I do love and that I do enjoy, that I do feel fulfilled in, like it is, sometimes I do believe it's seen as selfish, especially if I'm not running back for every event, like if I do have to make the decision to stay or to continue to build my life, um, and I can't make all of the other celebrations or the things that if I could be in two places, it would be nice. But it
Yeah.
does feel like it is an intentional choice not to be at every single event, so that I can enjoy the space that I'm in now and build the space that I'm in now as well, right? And I think that is seen as selfish by some community members and some family members, right? So, and again, I think there's the conversation is shifting so that my contemporaries, at least can acknowledge that, like, listen, she's doing what she wants to do, where it's not like there's something that's wrong with doing that, with creating spaces that are not in this central space, right? Um, so yeah, and the whole idea, what I do love about the book is that it just gives permission to really reject that label, in the sense that it is a negative connotation, right? That I don't want to be selfish, because that definitely is something that's a virtue, that's a characteristic that you are taught that is not okay. Like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be
Yeah,
selfish.
the whole entire, yeah, the connotation is complete indifference to every other living being in your
Right.
sphere. Like, you just don't care about anything. Like, it really is all about you. And
Exactly.
sort of, and when people say that, even though, and the reason why they say it, like you said, if you're called selfish because you don't come running back to every single thing, like that word and its connotation, simply because I'm not buying a plane ticket to come back to Chi-Town for his graduation, like that's why.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like a lot.
Yeah. And the idea that you know like, kind of like you said, the assumption that if you don't have these other attachments,
Mm-hmm.
then there is something wrong with you not giving this amount of space. However, like, well, I'm sure for different families, it's a different amount of space that's expected of you, that you're not giving this amount of space and time back to this particular whatever, right? This family, or this event, or this or that or the other, right?
Exactly.
um, Whereas it is not expected of those that do have families, like, in terms of the kids and the husband, right? That
Because they
that
have to
that
do.
is not extended to someone is child free and maybe partner but not married, that latitude is not as extended to myself, us, as I do believe that it is extended to those who do fit more within that traditional cultural norm of being their own nuclear family. That's what I mean. And so, so what I thought was empowering about what you wrote in that passage in particular was that reminding us that it is okay to have that space for yourself, right? And if you call it selfish, if I'm called selfish, to actually be okay with hearing that in terms of it, like I don't need to change who I am or how I'm operating because of that, right? I can continue to love and be mindful of everyone who's in my circle, in my world, that, but it doesn't have to look a particular way that someone else expects it to look, right? Yeah.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have to run, Miss Lauren, because you are the little busy bee of New Orleans. You got your fabulous career. You're always looking fabulous like that. So you're off to somewhere else. So I want to thank you for coming, and just any final thoughts, any final connections that you want to ask or make about the book before we bid you adieu.
Yes, actually, I think it's a fabulous addition to the canon of how we can be as women, right? It just adds depth and variety, and it mirrors so many of our experiences, right? And I think that that's one of the most important things about your work, is that you're giving voice to lived experiences, right? And we have so much freedom in life to choose and be exactly who we're destined and created to be, and live in our fullness. And this is part of that spectrum of fullness. And I appreciate this addition, and again, giving voice to different lived experiences as women. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So the book is No Thanks. As you can see, it is causing all sorts of really meaty, thoughtful, in-depth conversation. And I got to tell you, I enjoyed writing the book. It was a little tedious and tiresome at points. It's a whole nother story, but I enjoyed writing the book, but I'm really enjoying talking to readers and just really seeing their perspective and their takeaways, and how it's similar to my experience, but very much different and specific to them. So again, thank you, Lauren, and you have a great day.